Every prison cell has echoes, every police report a missing line, every victim a voice that refuses to be forgotten. These are not just tales of crime and punishment, they are fragments of lives, choices, and the secrets that society tried to bury. Subscribe now, and join us as we reopen the files, retrace the evidence, and uncover the stories they never wanted you to hear. The River's Secret. If you think you've heard it all, this story will change your mind. Hit subscribe, because this one cuts deep. The sirens started before dawn, painting the fog along Coldwater's River Road in shades of blue and white. Locals woke to whispers, a car abandoned at the boat launch, a woman's purse on the passenger seat, and the river swallowing its reflection like a secret. Her name was Lena Hart, 28, a school counselor loved by everyone who needed saving. That morning, she was supposed to run a scholarship workshop. Instead, a sheet covered her body on the concrete ramp, and her gold Believe pendant glimmered faintly under the grey light. Detective Ray Malloy, a veteran cop with 2 decades in the force, stood over the scene, chewing a toothpick. He'd seen his share of tragedy, but this one didn't sit right. Lena wasn't the type to meet trouble alone near a river past midnight. A neighbor's doorbell camera gave the first clue. 2 cars creeping down to the boat ramp around 12:18 a.m. One of them matched a blue Honda Civic, driven by a 22-year-old warehouse worker named Evan Cole. He was quiet, polite, no record, but in a small town, one rumor spreads faster than truth. By noon, his name was already on the radio. Evan lived above a laundromat. When police came knocking, he looked like a kid who hadn't learned to hide fear yet. In interrogation, Malloy kept his tone steady. "You know Lena Hart? She helped me last year with college forms. I hadn't seen her in months." "Then why's your car near the launch at midnight?" "I wasn't there. I swear. I was at work. Check the cameras." But the warehouse security cameras had technical errors, blank screens between midnight and 12:30. That silence was enough for the town to decide. The Civic was searched. Under the driver's seat, officers found Lena's necklace tangled in carpet fibers. By sunset, Evan was the headline. Local man held in counselor's death. He cried during booking. Reporters called it guilt. Detective Malloy couldn't shake the doubt. Lena's phone hadn't been found, and her autopsy showed no sign of a violent struggle, just a blow to the head consistent with falling on the rocks, a possible accident, or something carefully staged. 3 days later, divers pulled Lena's phone from the shallow reeds. A tech cleaned it, warmed it, and somehow brought it back to life. The last recorded entry was a voice memo, time-stamped 12:16 a.m., 2 minutes before the neighbor's footage. Malloy listened as the audio filled the lab. Lena's voice trembled. "If anything happens to me, it's because of..." A scrape muffled the next word. "He said we'd meet by the river. Said it'd be quick." Then a man's voice, calm, close. "You recording me?" A door opened. Another voice spoke, deeper, older, used to authority. "Put the phone away, Lena. You don't need to make this dramatic." Her breathing hitched. "Ray, please." The detective froze. The voice was his. Malloy replayed it 3 times, cold sweat collecting under his collar. How could his name be on her lips? He had been home that night, hadn't he? He told the tech to stop playback. The tech hesitated. "There's one more file, sir. A voicemail from 12:14 a.m. Malloy nodded slowly. The phone's speaker crackled to life. Another man's voice whispered, "Lena, not here. If he sees us, the chief." Then static. Malloy's pulse thudded in his ears. 2 cars, 2 men, 1 river, and a woman who'd been brave enough to record both. He stared at the evidence bag on his desk, Lena's gold chain, and noticed the signature on the release form. His own name. Signed that morning, but he hadn't touched it. Outside, the low hum of an SUV engine filled the station lot. It belonged to the chief of police. Malloy looked at the ice door. A shadow fell across the frosted glass, and a familiar voice knocked 3 times, even, calm, rehearsed. "Ray," the chief said softly. "We need to talk about that chain." The knock on the office door echoed like a warning. Detective Ray Malloy froze, eyes fixed on the gold chain in the evidence bag. The voice outside, the chief's voice, was calm, steady, and absolute. "Ray, we need to talk about that chain." He slipped the bag into a drawer, pushed it shut, and opened the door. Chief Danner stood there, coat draped over one arm, tie loosened as if he'd just come from somewhere important. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Long morning?" he asked lightly. Malloy nodded, keeping his face unreadable. "You could say that." The chief stepped in without invitation. "Word is you found something on that girl's phone. Audio, maybe." Malloy's pulse ticked in his neck. "Still reviewing evidence." Danner's brow lifted. "Good. Keep it that way. No reason to stir ghosts if the case is already clean." He turned, gaze sweeping across the cluttered desk. "Poor kid, that boy you picked up. Sad to see a young life wasted. But people like him, they never last in towns like ours." Malloy's jaw tightened. "Evan Cole didn't do this." The chief stopped walking. "Careful, Ray. You sound almost sympathetic." "I'm saying the evidence doesn't fit. The girl's necklace, her phone. Someone's moving pieces around." Danner gave a quiet laugh. "Then stop moving with them. You've built your reputation on clean work. Don't start doubting it now." Malloy stared at him. "You signed my name on that evidence release." Danner met his eyes, and for 1 second the silence between them was heavier than guilt. "Then I suggest you don't make me prove otherwise." He left, the echo of his boots trailing down the hall like the end of a verdict. Malloy sat there, the hum of the ceiling light filling the space. He'd worked 22 years under this department, and rookies come and go, seen the town survive floods, bankruptcies and scandals. But this was different. This was rot that started at the top. He opened his drawer again. The necklace was gone. In its place, a folded slip of paper. "You were never supposed to hear that tape." Malloy's throat dried. He grabbed his coat and left through the side exit. The parking lot was nearly empty except for his unmarked car and the chief's SUV, still idling. Inside, the faint glow of a dashboard screen flickered like a pulse. He kept walking. Down by the river, the fog returned, curling low along the water. The same ramp where Lena Hart had been found gleamed wet under a sodium streetlight. He could almost hear her voice, breathing fast, whispering into her phone, afraid. He crouched, running his fingers along the cracked concrete, and saw something glint near the weeds. A small silver voice recorder, scuffed and half covered in mud. Not the phone. A backup. She must have known they'd come for her. He pocketed it, heart pounding. Back at his apartment, he poured a drink he didn't touch and played the recorder. The sound came through faint but clear. Lena's voice again. "He told me to meet by the water. Said we'd talk about the scholarship fund, about the missing donations. I think he's lying. I think they're all lying." Then footsteps, male voices. One was sharp, irritated. "She shouldn't have seen that ledger." The second voice, deeper, measured, replied, "Then make it look like an accident. Malloy can handle the rest." The recording ended. Malloy sat still, the air in the room thinning. He'd been used, his name forged, his reputation weaponized. The chief hadn't been protecting the department. He'd been protecting himself. He reached for his phone, then hesitated. Who could he trust? Internal Affairs? They reported to Dana. The DA? Appointed by him. He looked at the clock. Midnight. At 12:14 a.m., a text arrived from an unknown number. "We know what you found. Turn it in and walk away." Malloy stared at the screen, every instinct screaming. He typed back, "Meet me where it started." He drove to the river. The fog had thickened, swallowing the road. When he reached the launch, headlights appeared through the mist, another car pulling in behind him. A black sedan. The chief stepped out, coat fluttering in the damp air. "Ray," he said softly, hands in pockets. "I told you to let this go." Malloy held up the recorder. She had proof. "You stole the money. You silenced her." Dana smiled faintly. "And you, my friend, are the perfect witness. The loyal detective who found what needed to be found. We both know how this ends." Malloy felt the cold wind off the river, the smell of wet steel. "You're not walking away this time." The chief sighed. "Then neither are you." He took a step forward. Malloy backed toward the ramp, hands slipping toward his phone to record again. But Dana's expression changed. He wasn't reaching for a weapon. He was reaching for something in his coat pocket. A lighter. "History burns fast, Ray," he murmured. "You should have learned that." The sound of an engine startled them both. Headlights swept over the fog. Another car. It was a reporter from the local paper, the same one who'd covered Lena's case. Dana froze. The flash of a camera cut through the mist. One shot, then another. The chief turned away, his voice low and steady. "You'll regret this." He got in his car and drove off. Malloy looked at the reporter, who lowered her camera slowly. "You think anyone will believe it?" she asked. "Maybe not," he said. "But it's a start." He handed her the recorder. "Make copies. Keep one safe." The next morning, the chief's office was empty. His badge, gun, and resignation letter sat neatly on the desk. The ledger Lena mentioned was found later in a storage locker near the docks. Pages missing, but enough to show misused funds, fake scholarship, and a trail of falsified donations. Evan Cole was released. No charges. The town called it closure. Malloy called it survival. That night, he drove to the river one last time. The fog hung low, calm now, the water reflecting the pale lights from the bridge. He dropped his toothpick, let it sink, and watched the ripples fade. When he turned back toward his car, his phone buzzed. A text from a blocked number. "You only found one ledger." He looked toward the dark horizon, the current moving slow and steady beneath the mist. Somewhere downstream, another truth waited to surface. And this time, he wasn't sure he'd survive finding it. The text haunted Malloy for nights. "You only found one ledger." He stopped sleeping. Every sound in his apartment felt staged. The hum of the fridge, the tap drip, even the shuffle of footsteps above. He knew the chief hadn't acted alone. Corruption in Coldwater ran deeper than a single man's greed. 2 days later, the reporter called. "There's something you should see." They met at a diner off Highway 41, the kind of place where coffee never emptied and nobody asked questions. She slid a folder across the booth. Inside were photocopies from the ledger they'd uncovered. Forged scholarships, false names, and account transfers to a non-profit. One registered under the chief's initials, but one entry stood out, handwritten differently. Lena H. Restricted Fund B. "She found the second ledger," Malloy said quietly. The reporter nodded. "And she was planning to hand it to state investigators the night she died." Malloy rubbed a hand across his face. "Then it's still out there." At dusk, he drove back to the river, same ramp, same mist. A cold drizzle blurred the water's edge. He walked along the bank until he saw something wedged in the reeds. A waterproof case coated in mud. Inside were soaked documents, most illegible, but one line of black ink clung to life. Transfer authorization. Depend of corrections. Research account. The ledger wasn't just about money. It was funding experiments. Behavioral testing on inmates, falsified consents, drug trials hidden under rehabilitation programs. Lena had stumbled into it by accident. The chief wasn't the only one protecting it. A beam of light hit the trees behind him. A car door slammed. "Ray!" The voice belonged to Captain Morris, the man next in line after Dana's resignation. His hand rested near his belt, not in threat, but warning. "You need to walk away. That file's already been classified. You're making this worse." Malloy, pulled up the dripping case. "Lena died because of this. She died because she didn't listen." Silence, heavy as fog. The captain took a slow step forward. "You turn that in, it disappears. Same as the last one. You want to do her justice? Stay alive." Malloy looked at the water, then back at Morris. "I'm done surviving." He dropped the case into the river. The papers fanned out like ghosts before sinking. Morris exhaled, relief mixing with unease. "You just saved yourself." "No," Malloy said. "I saved the proof." He pointed upstream. The reporter stood near her car, phone raised, streaming everything. The red light blinked live. Morris froze. "You're finished, Ray?" "Maybe," Malloy said. "But so is this department." The captain turned and walked off into the fog. A week later, Coldwater made national headlines. Investigators confirmed misuse of state funds and sealed records tied to inmate research. The department was under federal review. Chief Dana was found in Mexico, awaiting extradition. Evan Cole started a scholarship fund in Lena's name. The town tried to move on, but the water by the ramp never lost its stillness. Locals said no birds nested there anymore. Malloy resigned quietly. No ceremony, no badge turned in. Just a desk left empty and a note. "The truth doesn't need a uniform." He left town before sunrise, heading west, chasing quiet roads and unfinished apologies. As he crossed the bridge out of Coldwater, his phone vibrated once. No number, no name. Just a single text. "There's another river." He looked in the rearview mirror. Fog rising behind him. The town fading into grey. The chain of lies had been broken, but the current kept moving. And somewhere, another story waited to be told. If you think this story was intense, the next one will leave you speechless. Subscribe for more true crime stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat.